main purpose of this is, like I say, to talk about the new additions to our staff. Jay Johnson joined our staff as offensive coordinator, and Bart Miller is offensive line coach. A little bit on the process part of it is that, you always have two or three people in mind when you start a process, and then expand it out from there if you need to. Both these guys were on our original list. They both had a chance to meet with everybody on the staff during the process, and we all felt good about it and them being good fits. We ended up getting the search done a little bit faster than what I initially thought, but at the same time, I think we got the right fit for people for what we want to do. As I done my work the first few weeks in the phone calls, is that I made up I thought it was best to go with a younger offensive line candidate and coach. With that also came, then I made the decision to go with an experienced coordinator because, like I say, I don't want to be highly involved in the offensive side of the ball. I'd like somebody to take charge and somebody who's proven that they can do that and be successful, and Jay's done that. At the same time, Bart, I got to know Bart and know of him from his time at Wisconsin as a graduate assistant, and then the 1 year that he took over coaching the offensive line at the University of Wisconsin when they made a mid-season change, and how well that they played from that point forward after that change was made. So that's kind of how the process went. Extremely happy to have them be a part of it. Today's really the official beginning for us to get going with the convention and recruiting coming up, and like I say, we all look forward to working together. So with that, we'll let it go to questions.
We'll take questions for all three of the coaches. So fire away, guys. All right.
Jay, does the cliche hold true that coming home is a dream come true?
Very much so. As I grew up being a Gopher fan, and first game was going to Memorial Stadium, and I believe Tony Dungy was the quarterback with my grandma and grandpa. Just growing up and following over years, certainly a great opportunity to come back home and work in this great state and with this great institution and with the staff that, as you follow them, as I followed them from afar, is certainly showing their success. So very, very exciting opportunity for me.
Jay, would you say your ideal offense would be kind of what you guys were doing from 11 to 14 down there in Lafayette?
Yeah, I think so. I think for us, it's going to start with running the football. We need to run the football, and we need to do that obviously in this league and those things. So it's always going to start there, and that starts with what we do up front and the mentality and the tenacity we bring to it. So we're going to start there, and then but this day and age, you have to do both to be successful. And we're going to have to throw it, because if we can get good running the ball, they're going to put more than we have in there to try to stop it. So we've got to make some plays on the edges. So it's always a combination. And the way I always get into a game, if we need to run it 60 times, we'll run it 60 times. If we need to throw it 40 times. So I think each game is a little bit situational. But at the end of the day, it needs to start with the run and then work from there with the pass and trying to stress some people down the field.
I know it's early, but have you had a chance to evaluate or look at yet the personnel that you might have to work with going forward here?
A little bit. I have had a chance. I had the fortunate opportunity to watch the bowl game. So that was some good opportunities there, and I've had a chance to just visiting with coaches and seeing some film and things of that nature. So I'm excited. I think there's a very good nucleus of guys here, and that starts with the quarterback position. I got a chance to meet with Mitch this morning and spoken with all the quarterbacks. So having a veteran, a competitive, a guy with his spirit coming back is really, really exciting. So I think with that, really excited with the young running backs and then our receiver core. So, yeah, I'm excited. I think the personnel's there to put into place to really be a productive offense and to do some positive things.
What are your thoughts on I know it's early, but just what you've come to know about some of the linemen that'll be back for you next year?
I think we have some talented guys that have done some good things, but we need to be able to establish a physical running game, establish a physical line of scrimmage. I think we've got a couple guys that played a lot of football here, and some guys that we think can do some good things. And once we get our techniques taught and kind of our style of play, I think good things are going to happen.
Tracy mentioned it, and Charlie Partridge mentioned it as well, kind of that year at Wisconsin taking over mid-season. What did you do that was different that made them play so well to get the attention of Tracy and Charlie and everyone else?
Well, it was obviously a difficult situation to take over at that time, but one of the things that we were so good at there was being physical and running the football and having that mentality, and they got away from that a little bit. And when we took over, we reestablished that mentality of being the most physical, being the most dominant and taking pride in that. And I think when your guys are playing for you and playing for something greater than themselves, they're going to play hard and play for their school and do some good things up front. And that's what we try to get back to. That's what we're going to do here is establish that mindset that you are the meanest, toughest, nastiest guy on the field. And when you do that, you're going to push people around and have success up front. And that's ultimately how you play the game.
Jay, when you guys, 2013, I think you set the school record for first downs and offensive plays. Is that right? I'm just wondering, did you speed up at all the tempo, or was it?
Well, yes and no. We did at times. We were considered a no-huddle team at times. We played with, I thought, fairly decent tempo. Other times we didn't. We were more concerned at the end of the day about being right than we were playing fast, and that started again with the guys up front. And those are the two most important people on the field for me. It's those five guys up front and the guy taking the snap. So we erred a little bit more on the side of being right than fast. But we did show the ability to do that and play with some tempo, and I think it's good to have that ability. And as we move forward, I hope we can have the ability to change the tempo, and we'll certainly look to do that.
Tracy, one thing you guys experimented with that a lot in spring ball last year, and then saw during the season sometimes. Just what are your thoughts on just if this offense were to speed up at times?
Well, first, this would be the first time we went into the first game with a new offensive coordinator, and so there needs to be a little bit of mystery there that we've had to deal with the last few weeks. But just as Jay said, I think at times during the game to be able to change out the tempo of it will help you, and so. But at the same time is that whatever we do best is what we'll do. If that's the way we're most productive in that type of mode, then we need to stick with that mode. And if we're not, there's no sense in fighting it. So, like I've told Jay and Bart both, is that the key is through spring ball is to find out what we're good at, and then that's what we're going to emphasize and what we're going to do.
Jay, you've got a quarterback in Leitner who's going to be a senior next year. Is that, in some ways, I'm sure that presents a great wealth of opportunity. He's established. On the other hand, you've only got 1 year to kind of get him into what you want to do. How do you kind of balance what's already there versus what you want him to do?
Right. I think that is a very good question. And Mitch and I spoke this morning, and I said, we're going to do this together because I want input from him, because I can come and change and do all this and that, but if that doesn't work for him, then that's not what's best for this team. So, that is something I'm going to take into account, and things that we can keep similar that still gets accomplished, or we need to get accomplished, I'm going to try to do that and mold a little bit what's already here, but then at the same token, we need to look at what helps us be best. So I think there's a balance, but with great communication and those types of things, which I know I'm going to have with those guys at that spot, I think we can move forward pretty quickly.
Jay, does it seem uncanny that you're going to be inheriting a quarterback from your hometown, and just the fact that your dad coached him?
Yeah, it is. It's interesting. He said he had breakfast with my dad, I guess Monday. I haven't even seen my dad, so he's already had breakfast with him earlier in the week. So it is. It's unique. It's really a unique deal, but pretty neat at the same time.
Jay had a backup at Northern Iowa by the name of Kurt Warner.
Yeah, that's what I'm told, yes. I always tell people he's worth millions. I'm a trivia question. So, but yeah, Kurt was a great player and a good friend.
How was he then?
I'm sorry?
How was he then when you were running the team and he was a backup? Could you see the upside at all?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Was very talented, and I was very blessed to play with a bunch of good players that we won a bunch of games. But Kurt was an exceptional player, absolutely.
Bart, I'm not sure exactly how the chronology went, but it sounded like they had you lined up, and then when you took the job, did you know it was going to be Jay? And in that regard, what are your thoughts on you'll be working directly for him?
Oh, I'm very excited to work with Jay and the rest of the staff. I mean, these guys have been together a long time and done some great things. And it was we kind of knew the direction that they wanted to take the offense. And then Jay and I met through the process, and it's been very collaborative ever since, and it's exciting.
Tracy, had to be tough calling. I'm assuming you had hundreds of applications, inquiries, right?
Yeah, you do. That's why you still started with the 3 to 4 guys that really had personal ties with and knew, but touched base with a lot of people. And it was important to me, not only football wise, is that they fit in personality wise and for our kids also. And the hardest thing nowadays is that everybody with the no huddle and throwing the ball all over, and that is just in the Midwest. I think when you deal with the weather issues you deal with and playing outside, and I think the type of lineman that we should have an opportunity to get, that you have to make sure that you have somebody who's committed to the running game. And so that's what I spent most of my time on, is making sure that, hey, I'm the same way. A good offensive coach takes advantage of whatever the defense gives them, and you have to be able to do that. But at the same time, you got to be able to run the football in the Midwest.
Can you estimate the number of inquiries that you had for both, for positions? More than 100 or?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's more than 100. There's no question.
More than 200?
Probably that'd be a good guess, right around 200, 150 to 200 by the time it's all done. And, I tried, and I think I for the most part, either called back, text back, or sent an email to all of them over those 2 weeks that I was on the road. And then, like I say, you check with the guys that you trust, and I'm excited, and I think it's a good fit for us all the way around.
Tracy, what was it about, Raging Cajuns offense that you liked about just how Jay ran it?
Well, I'm gonna go back farther to Southern Miss. I've had conversations with Coach Bauer, and is that everybody who I talked to about Jay always told me that if they got hired somewhere as a head coach somewhere, he would be the first coach they would hire. And I think that says an awful lot about him, not just from the way he attacked things, defenses on offense, but they said he got along great with the staff. He's one of the best recruiters that was on the staff. I knew he was from Lakeville. OB had told me something about that, but I didn't know that his dad, Coach Mitch, until after the bowl game. After the bowl game, I knew, that it wouldn't be long and things were going to happen. So I let Mitch know, and he's like, yeah, Coach. He goes, I know who he is. His dad coached me. I'm like, oh, okay. So I didn't even know that at that time, and so I think that part of it was a great fit, and then, like I say, Bart, there's no question with his background. He played for Bob Bosted, and who's one of the best offensive line coaches that there is, and to play for him and then work for him at Wisconsin, and that's a style that what they teach is that I was interested in doing, and so I felt like they were both just great fits for where we're at and where we want to go.
Can you explain again why you preferred this hierarchy or setup with the coordinator and the quarterback's coach being the same person, and how will that be different than, how will that play itself out on game day practices?
I prefer it because of this, is that when I coached the position and I was a coordinator on defense, but maybe I wasn't smart enough, I wasn't near as good. Because I'm worried about a position meeting all the time. I coach the secondary and I'm the coordinator. I wouldn't make some calls during games because I wasn't for sure if my kids knew it good enough. And so when you're a coordinator, it really allows you to lock in on what teams are doing to you, adjustments during game, and really manage the game. And so I think that for a person to do that, they need to have the least amount of people that they're responsible for during the week. And so if Jay would have been a tailbacks coach, we could have worked around even tight ends. There's usually just 1 or 2 tight ends, but I think it's hard if you coach wide receivers or if you coach offensive line where there's a bunch of kids at that position. I think it's hard to do that and then on game day be in control of the game. That's just my personal preference from my own experience.
Jay, one thing that Jack Osberg at Augsburg said is that he showed up with a full playbook for your interview.
Right.
How much of that preparation kind of originates with your dad, since he's been mentioned here, and And how has your offensive philosophy evolved in those 20 years?
Well, I think it, I always think there's a couple things I always ask. One is, when you look at offensive philosophies and what you're trying to do, one of the things I always take into consideration, who is your 11th best player? Who is he? Is he the third wide receiver? Is he the second tight end? Is he a fullback? Is he the fourth wide receiver? And then I think that begins to mold a little bit where you're going to go. And so, I'm not to that point here with us. I hope to be very, very quickly. But, I think, it still starts. But to me, it's always started with the run game, because I guess I'm a believer in that, because I think that's good for your football team. I think it creates a persona of your football team. And so we're going to start there. Not only just offense, but I think it creates how defense, because they have to practice against us every day. And it carries over. So I'm always going to start there, but then we still have to force the ball down the field. And I think those basics, and when you come down to it, football's you block and you tackle and take care of the ball and you kick it at the end of the day. And so we need to do those things very well. And so how we do that, again, is going to be molded to our people, most importantly. And again, I always come back to who is that 11th best guy, because that kind of begins to dictate how you will present things to the defenses. And then that, once you're in those presentations, then what are you doing out of those presentations?
Yeah, somebody referenced it, but is it the spread offense, or what? How do you, what's the basic?
That's a
level?
good question. I don't know if I even know what the spread offense is anymore. I don't know that we are a spread offense, or have been a spread offense. I don't really see it that way. I mean, we like to run the football. If that's with two backs or three tight ends or two tight ends or one back, we'll start there. So I don't know. I would say we're very multiple of what I've done in the past. But again, this is going to be, I know this of the staff that's here, Coach Reeves and Coach Poore and Coach Anderson. Those guys have been very, very successful now too. So I'm looking to mold and bring this all together. And then with Bart's experiences, how can we use all that knowledge in the room to really come up with a great system? And so I think it'll be a little bit pieces from everybody, and to get a comfort level and a scheme that we feel very good about moving forward.
Jay, the scouting report is you're a pretty good recruiter. Can you just talk about your philosophy recruiting?
Well, I think recruiting, I think there's a couple things. First of all, I think recruiting is about relationships. I think it's about relationships, and I think it's about honesty. When you get this stage of the social media and different things that all fly around in recruiting and that, I think it makes it challenging. But I've always tried to be very upfront and honest with the guys I recruit, try to develop a relationship, because my deal is this: at the end of the day, we want guys come to the University of Minnesota because they want to be here. Because if they choose it that way, they're going to be very, very successful. If they don't choose it that way, then it's probably not going to work out, or they're never going to reach their full potential. So I've always tried to keep that in the back of my mind as I go about it, is that we want guys that want to come be a part of this great institution and this great state. And if they choose that, I bet you they're going to be pretty good. So basically, but starting back to the relationships and being very honest and upfront.
We have time for a couple more.
Trace, Adam Weber's status going forward?
Yeah, he's got another year back here as a graduate assistant with the quarterbacks, and so him and Jay will be working. And what that allowed Jay to do is, through spring ball, it allowed him to roam quite a bit, because Adam does a nice job, and so Jay will be able to move around and make sure that everything's fitting in accordingly to how he thinks it should. So we're excited to have Adam back. I did a great job with Mitch there towards the end of the season, and he got a great future in front of him.
Trace, what's your timeline for D coordinator, and do you anticipate any surprises there?
No, it'll be Coach Savell. We're getting things worked out now, so it'll be Coach Savell. So he did a great job. Guys did a great job during the bowl game, and then him and OB will get comfortable working together how they want to do that in the secondary. If it's out, but again, is that we're going to take a few things off of Jay's plate. So during the game, with the secondary, he needs help with them. So he'll have OB plus a graduate assistant, so he can concentrate more on the game and on adjustments and that. So we'll get that all worked out spring, but it'll be Coach Savell when it's all said and done.
Tracy, how far back does your relationship go with Jay? I mean, are we talking 15, 20 years?
I would guess Jay had probably never really heard of Tracy Claeys very much until he and I know he has Coach Kill, and that's where he's been on our list, or mine, a little bit, because of we've had a couple openings in the past at Southern Illinois and all that, and whether he knew it or not, we always had considered him in those positions and that. And so and I think, again, I talked about is that at the schools that Jay's coach has to be very similar to our background. That he's been at smaller schools. There's a lot of good coaches at those schools, and you learn to be a better coach because you don't have all the resources, and you really got to work at some things. And so I felt like with that, and like I say, his commitment to, I didn't believe we're not going to run the ball 70 times a game. You can't do that anymore and win unless you're just physically better than who you're playing against. But you still need to be committed to trying to run the football and not just dropping back and throwing it every play. And I know with him, I don't have to worry about that.
Jay, how much of a learning curve should we expect in the spring as far as terminology and schemes and things?
I don't know. I hope not a great deal. I know there are some things that will change, but really at the end of the day, a lot of us at all levels of football run very, very similar things. It's just you call it this, I call it that. So, but that will be our big focal point as soon as we get done with recruiting, as we come together as an offensive staff, is working on exactly that, the terminology and moving forward from everything that we do. And so I'm hoping, again, to mold already what we have a little bit and use as much as we can, and where we see need change, we'll do it.
We have one final one, or